Good morning. So as we wait for the others to join, we can continue. So today I want to start talking about organization structure and design. We had mentioned something last week about organization, and we said that organization plays a very critical role in most organizations because it is responsible for bringing resources together. And these resources are the ones that basically help the organization to be able to achieve various objectives. We also looked at the importance of having a good organization function in an organization because managers will be able to achieve their goals in the best way possible. So today we are going to talk about organizational structure and design. Organization structure and design. So when we talk about organization structure, what comes into our mind is that we are talking about hierarchy. So that the organization structure provides a framework that will help you to understand the flow of command. For example, who is supposed to report to who, and who is supposed to report to who, and what are some of the responsibilities that they need to achieve. So by definition, an organization structure is a system for accomplishing and connecting activities that occur within a work organization. So for example, if you're working for a manufacturing firm, there's a system in which those activities have been connected together so that at the end of the day, if you are in procurement department, you already know who are you supposed to report to and what are some of the activities that you need to do. And these activities are normally connected to other activities or other departments so that it helps you to understand the flow of work and how best you can support each other throughout the organization. So people rely on structures to know what work they should do and how their work support or rely to other employees. So exactly, once you have a good structure in place, then it becomes easier for you to be able to know what exactly are you supposed to do in the organization. So once you know your activity, then you will not have competing activities that maybe you're in a particular department and you are doing another activity that another department is doing. So those conflicting activities will be reduced a great deal. Then, and how these work activities fulfill the purpose of the organization itself. So once you have a good structure in place, it becomes easier to be able to fulfill the purpose or the objective, what you want to achieve at the end of the day. Those organizations that have been able to increase their performance on a day-to-day basis have been able to come up with a structure that is well understood by all the employees within that organization. And that is why you find some of these organizations are doing a great job when it comes to performance, because every employee knows exactly what they're supposed to do. A good example you can talk about is Safaricom. When you look at Safaricom and how they normally do their things, you realize that the Safaricom structure is one of the best structures. And that is why they keep on being the best in that industry. We have other companies like Coca-Cola, they are doing a good job when it comes to organization structure and also design. So once you understand what is an organization structure, it is also very important to understand what is organizational design. So organization design, by definition, is the process of setting up organization structure to address the needs of the organization and account for the complexity involved in accomplishing the business objective. So once you have a good structure in place, then organizational design comes in because it helps you to set up the organization structure. Then we also have common organizational designs. So we have different designs that can be implemented within the organization. For example, we have the traditional organizational design, which may include simple structure, functional structure, and divisional structure. When you look at all these three structures, they are normally mechanistic structures. So let us look at simple structures. This is very common when you are dealing with small businesses which are starting, because their structure is not that complex because of their size of that organization. Maybe they have a small number of employees, and the span of control is not that big. And also, when you look at the departments, you realize that the departments are not that complex. So these are normally referred to as simple structure. Then the second one is the divisional structure. As the name suggests, divisional structure are structures that are divided into various divisions, basically normally referred to as units. So you might be in a particular division, and in that division, you also have your divisional managers who you are supposed to report to. And the other thing about this divisional structure is the issue of authority and responsibility, where you already know in that division you're supposed to report to who and to what manager. This helps you in terms of performance, and also helps you to understand the various specific tasks in that unit that you're supposed to do. The other thing you need to understand is the departmentalization. So we have different types of departmentalization. The first one is the one called functional departmentalization. As the name suggests, in functional departmentalization, tasks are normally divided according to the purpose and the work that they do. For example, you might be having different functions within the organization. And in these functions, you can understand that we have human resource functions, we have marketing functions, we have production or even procurement functions. So those departments are normally divided according to the various functions in which you operate in. For example, if you're in finance, then your functional area will be purely finance. Therefore, you will belong to the finance department. Then we have other functional departments like human resource. So if you're in human resource, your main function will be to perform activities that are related to human resource. Therefore, as the name suggests, this departmentalization, called a functional departmentalization, focuses more on some of the functions that are performed within that particular organization. Then the other one is the production department. And this is very common when you are dealing in production, where you have different productions that you need to do. For example, you look at some of the production lines that you have. And this is very common in manufacturing, where we have complex organizations that deal with different products. For example, you can look at a company like Bidco Africa, which is a production or manufacturing firm. And within Bidco, we have different productions. You might be having a production that deals with, let's say, cooking oil. That is production A. You might be having another production B that is dealing with the detergents. You might be having another production that is dealing with soft drinks. You might be having another production that deals with another different product, maybe research and development. So when you look at some of those productions, you realize that the productions are normally self-contained, where we have the different functions within every production division. You might be having finance officials, you might be having engineers within that production department, and others. So that is a production departmentalization. Then we also have the other one, which is geographical. And when we talk about geographical, our main focus is to divide organizations based on where they are in terms of geography. For example, if you are in the Western region, you might be in that particular geographical location. Therefore, for example, this is very common when you're dealing with the big organizations or multinational organizations where you find that these companies are in different parts of the world. For example, a good example is a company like DHL. When you look at a company like the DHL, you will find that DHL is in different parts of the world. They have branches like every country. So when you are in that particular organization, you will be organized in a geographical way. For example, if you are in Africa, you might be in the African region, or if you are in America, you will be in another region where you report to a regional manager. So these are very common in organizations that are very big in terms of their market scope or their market base. Then we have process departmentalization. We have process departmentalization. And this is very common when you are dealing with the customers or products where you have been grouped into various customers. For example, you might be having customers who are basically customers who are going to buy beauty products from you, or you might be having customers who are going to buy a totally different product from you. When you look at that structure, where we have a different division for product A, just a minute. So this is a product, this is product A. And in product A, we have other departments within that product A, where we have research and development, we have marketing, we have finance. Then we also have another department here where it might be a school or another organization that has different departments. For example, we have the managing director here. And within the managing director, we have the ladies banking, we have the corporate banking, and we also have the school banking, agricultural banking, and real estate. This other one is more focused on the product, where we have a division product X, division product Y, and division product Z. For division product Y, their focus is producing product called product X. So within the product X, we have different departments. We have the research and development department, we have the marketing department, we have the finance department, and we also have other departments within that particular division of product. We also have other products where we have product Y and product Z. Then another common type of structure is the cross-functional teams. Cross-functional teams. So when we talk about cross-functional teams, what comes into our mind is that different people from different departments with the different specializations are brought together to perform a particular activity or a task that is going to achieve the organizational goals. For example, if you are in marketing department, you might be brought, if you are in procurement department, you will be brought together so that you work for a common goal within the organization. And the focus of cross-functional teams is to ensure what we call team cohesiveness, where people know each other within the organization and they're able to work regardless of your department. And the main focus here basically is to be able to achieve more. And that is why they normally say when people work as a team, they will be able to achieve more and more. This is very common in large organizations because they are able to combine people from different departments or from different divisions. The other thing we will talk about today is the mechanistic model, normally referred to as the organic model. So this is also called the bureaucracy model, and it is normally characterized by rigidity and structure that is tightly controlled. In this type of structure, we have a lot of processes within one big process. Normally, it is very rigid because if you want to approve something, sometimes it might take long because of the various control mechanisms that they have put in place. And this structure is not basically the best structure because it might end up leading to a lot of delays. So it makes use of 6 elements of organization structure, and that is centralization, high formalization, a tall structure due to its narrow span of control. We have a clear chain of command and high level of specialization, which also leads to being rigid. So organic organizations allow change in the organization due to its loose structure. Sometimes it might be very, very difficult when you are dealing with the bureaucracy structure, in the sense that when it comes to issues of change, it might take very long. But in organic structure, it becomes very easy to allow change. So when you talk about organic structure or organic organizations, we look at characteristics like a wider span of control. We have decision and authority, which is more decentralized. So when you compare bureaucratic structure together with organic structure, you realize that in organic structure, it is more decentralized in a way where authority is normally devolved and people are given the autonomy to make decisions on their own. But on the other one, which is mechanical structure, you will find that we have a lot of red taping, or we have a lot of barriers, and it makes the process to become very, very rigid. Become very, very rigid. The other one is contemporary organizational structure. Contemporary organization structure. But before I talk about contemporary, any question? Roslyn?
No question.
Okay, Lillian? Okay, no question. And Wendy. Wendy, are you with us? Okay. So when we talk about contemporary structure, traditional structures are rigid and are a challenge to change. Those organizations that have still stuck to the traditional structure, sometimes you find that in terms of performance, they're not doing very well because they fear change. And one of the reasons they fear change is the unknown reason. What might happen if we change? And they don't also want to change the status quo, and that becomes a problem. And they end up sticking with a structure, even if that structure is not working well. But when you look at the dynamic business nature, you realize that for an organization to succeed, they have to have a structure that is very flexible, a structure that is very lean, where you want to maximize based on what you have as an organization. So flexibility is very important because remember, we are in an era where competition and the market dynamic keeps on changing. And one of the reasons is the globalization that has led to a lot of effect when it comes to organizations in terms of performance. So as a good organization should be able to be flexible, having in mind the flexibility in the market and the dynamism of what happens in the market. And one of the reasons as to why they need to look at the flexibility is the issue of performance. So if you want to perform better, you must you must be in a position So as a result, current managers are devising structures that are responsive to change and needs of employees. So one of the critical areas that managers nowadays are looking for is the team structure, where you incorporate teams most of the time because of the level of work that you want to achieve. And also, when it comes to teams, you realize when people are working as a team, they'll be able to motivate each other. And this will also lead to sharing of information that is critical and information that is going to help you achieve more in terms of your work and also in terms of the areas that you want to improve. Then the other common structure that managers are really looking at is the matrix and project structure. When we talk about matrix structure, you realize in matrix structure, they try to combine two structures. For example, they will combine the functional structure together with the project structure, where we have different projects within the organization, where every project reports to a certain project manager. But at the same time, within those projects, we also have functional managers. So as employees who are working for that particular structure, you might realize at the end of the day, you have two managers that you're supposed to report to. So those are the matrix structure. And some people say that this structure is basically one of the best structure. However, sometimes you might find that the managers might be conflicting with each other because of the various roles that might end up sharing some different roles or assigning roles to the various team members. Then we also have what is called a factual organization structure. And in this structure, basically, it allows a smaller number of full-time employees or experts to normally work on a remote basis, where you allow some employees who have access to the system to be working from home, or it also creates flexibility in terms of the employees. And remember, when you talk about the virtual organization, you realize that this organization has been there for a very long time. And one of the things that has led to the virtual organization is the implementation of technology. And remember, technology is no longer a dream, but a reality to most organizations. And organizations nowadays are capitalizing on how they will be able to embrace more of technology in their day-to-day activity. And that is why when you look at what is happening currently, we have issues like the AI, artificial intelligence. We also have robotics, where companies are considering to come up with issues to do with technology most of the time. It might be a good thing, yes, but we also need to ensure that employees are also trained so that whenever technology brings changes within the organization, they'll be ready and willing to support. However, they normally say that when you implement a lot of technology, most people will be driven out of work. What is your take on that? What is your take on that? Let's start with Wendy. What is your take on that? If you can hear me, Wendy. Hello, Wendy. As we wait for Wendy,
Yes,
Lillian.
yes.
Okay, I'm asking, we are in the era of technology, and there has been a shift. Just a minute.
Employee. This means that there's some functions within the organization that can be easily substituted by technology, therefore may lead to some employees being redundant, especially in the finance sector, amongst other sectors, even HR, maybe the recruitment personnel. Because nowadays the systems that actually filter you just key in the qualifications you're looking for, then they're able to filter for you the CVs. So those are my thoughts on that. Thank you.
Okay, we have Lillian is saying, I think food and production jobs will be affected by technology. Faster, consistent, predictable output. Service jobs are more about personal interaction, will be affected by the mode of interaction, that is from face to virtual. Then we have Roslyn. What is your take on that?
It fosters innovation and creativity in an organization.
So that
it
is the
also
good.
helps. It helps in hiring and recruitment.
Okay.
Yes.
What about the bad?
Employees can be redundant. Most of them can be sent home because the technology will be able to do most of the maybe computers or the new systems can reduce the number of employees working. Yes.
Samuel?
Mwalimu,
We
sorry,
were talking about technology
I'm
implementation.
late. I've just joined.
Yeah.
Let me catch up.
Okay. So technology is good and bad at the same time. But when it comes to recruitment, when it was talking about the APS systems that are normally used during recruitment, I think some of these systems are good and bad. You might end up getting the worst people to join the organization because the system, is a system that has been set in a particular way. So people might end up giving wrong information for purposes of being recruited for a particular position. Anyway, technology is good and bad at the same time. Then we also have what is called a network organization. It is a small co-organization that outsources major business function. This approach allows organizations to concentrate on what they do best and to contract out the activities to companies that specialize in those activities. So normally network organizations allow the organization to outsource. So they allow the organization to outsource. Just a minute. So they allow the organization to outsource non-core activities. For example, we can have, e.g., we can talk about IT services, which sometimes are not really core. For example, maintenance, where you want to check your hardwares, whether they are doing well or not doing well. You might have other services like security services, which can also be outsourced, where you have a third-party security that is focusing more on security issues. Other areas of outsourcing, we could be having, let's say, housekeeping services. So that at the end of the day, as much as you are outsourcing, your main focus is to maximize your production, where you are dealing with the core activities. For example, if you are in the banking sector, your core activities to ensure you maximize in terms of bringing customers on board, maximizing on controlling deposits and withdrawals from customers and other important issues. So while you want to focus on the core activities, you can decide to outsource the non-core activities. And that is what network organization normally does for organizations. The other thing we want to talk about today is organization principles. We have different principles that govern organizations on a day-to-day activities. And one of the principles that is very important is the principle of specialization. The principle of specialization. Nowadays, we have different professionals who come into the organization. And when you talk about professionals, these are courses that people have done. People have gone to school, they have specialized in some of those courses, and they're able now to become specialists in that area. And one of the key professions that we have is, obviously, we have the human resource management, HRM. We have procurement, which is also a profession, procurement. We have other professions like finance. We have IT. We have law, etc. For example, if you want to become a professional in that area like human resource, you must be registered with a particular society, or you must be a member of a professional body. For example, you as human resource practitioners, you must be registered with the Institute of Human Resource Management. Hope I'm right. Then you also need to do a professional course, which you are doing right now, which is the Certified Human Resource Professionals. And you must also have a practicing license from the same body. If you're in procurement, you also need to be a member of the Kenya Institute of Supply Management. And you also need to have completed a course which is called Certified Procurement and Supply Professionals of Kenya. And you also need to be registered as a practitioner. Then we also have finance, which is also a professional, a profession. So you must have done at least CPA, Certified Public Accountants of Kenya. You must be registered with ISPAC, and you also need to have practiced. Then we also have IT, which they have different bodies and also different professional qualifications for you to be an IT. Law, for example, you need to be part of the Law Society of Kenya, and you also need to do some other courses. Business management is sometimes tricky because anybody can do management. So there's no body that regulates business managers, business management. There's a course called business management. So anyone can do business management, and that is why there's no body that has been incorporated to monitor that. So business management is not a profession. So you can organize your departments where people are specialized in a particular area. For example, you can be in marketing, you can be in manufacturing, you can be in human resource, based on the various functions within the organization. The other second principle that is very important is the principle of command and control. When we talk about command and control, what comes into our mind is the issue of reporting, where you try your level best to connect and coordinate different efforts or activities within the organization for purposes of ensuring that you are able to accomplish some work and some activities within the organization. So it allows you to understand who are you supposed to report to and at what time. So command is very, very important. And when you have command in place, then it allows you to have some level of control. Imagine if we had an organization that did not have control. Somebody at the lower level could claim that he is the CEO, and the CEO might claim he's in another department and things like that. So command gives you some level of control at the end of the day. Then we also have what is called the span of control. The span of control. So this is the number of employees a manager can efficiently and effectively manage. So as a manager, there are some people who are reporting to you. So you need to understand how many people are supposed to report to you. So the span of control allows you as a manager to understand how many people are supposed to report to you, so that you don't have many people reporting to you until you even lose track of some of your employees. For example, top level leaders are usually responsible for all the work of their subordinates. Middle level leaders are responsible for a narrow set of responsibility. And also the ground level employees are usually responsible for specific tasks within the organization. So it allows you to know the span of control. So what are some of the factors that influence the span of control? The first factor is the managerial abilities. So as a manager, there are some issues that you need to have. You need to have some capabilities or abilities that will help you to be able to manage your people well, so that your employees don't complain of your leadership style or your leadership skills or management skills. So what are some of these abilities? Number one is the manager's capability. Does the manager have what it takes to deal with those people? It is very important as a manager to ensure that you have that capability. Then the other thing is about experience. And remember, experience grows over time. The moment you are given that responsibility, the more you're in that responsibility, the more you become better and better every day, because you meet different people and every day you learn something new, which will help you a great deal. Then you also need to be qualified. Qualification is very important. And that is why nowadays people are focusing more on growing their skills and going back to school so that they can learn and understand different issues within management. So qualification is very important. And that is why even in government today, for you to become a governor, you must at least have a degree in a particular area. For you to be an MCA, you must at least go to school. So education is very important, and education will allow you to articulate various issues within the organization. And I always say that education is like smoking. The more you are reading, the more you want more and more. There was a time I completed my undergraduate and I said, I'm not going back to school. But later I decided to go back because I felt that I was missing something. So I then went ahead to do my master's. After finishing my master's, I still wanted to do more and more. So currently I'm doing my doctorate, because the more you finish, the more you want more and more. So education is like smoking. The more you smoke, the more you want. I've never smoked anyway. I just hear people say. Then competence of subordinates, competence of subordinates. So as a manager, you need to understand the people who are reporting to you, what is their competencies, so that you might end up developing some of these people. And the focus of a manager is to be able to empower people to become better and better, to become better versions of themselves. So once you understand the competence of subordinates, it becomes easier to achieve various goals within the organization. The other thing is the nature of work. What are you doing? What are you doing? So if your work is repetitive as a manager, you need to understand what are some of the issues. If your work requires a lot of mental skills, you need to understand, so that it becomes easier for you to articulate issues that are affecting you on a day-to-day basis. Then the other thing that is very important is delegation of authority. As a manager, if your span of control is very big, then you realize you need to delegate authority. By delegation, it means you need to allocate responsibility to various people, so that at the end of the day, you need to monitor what those people are doing. And this will help you a great deal to avoid cases of confusion within the organization. You can't be a jack of all trades. So it's always important to delegate some responsibilities to people so that they will be able to increase their morale, and they will also be able to learn along the way, and they will become more and more effective in what they do. Then we also have the degree of decentralization. Decentralization is all about devolving various responsibilities. For example, where you give different people, different employees, the autonomy to make their own decisions, provided those decisions are in line with what you want to achieve at the end of the day. So the degree of decentralization is very important because it allows managers to identify different people in different departments so that they can also develop them to become future leaders. And decentralization is all about devolving the various functions within the organization. And for you to be able to succeed in decentralization, you need to have a good communication framework that allows flow of information, both at the top level and at the bottom level of the organization. So the other principle is the principle of scalar chain, principle of scalar chain. In this principle, it implies that authority should flow from the top to bottom. This is helpful in communication. So scalar chain allows communication to flow from top to bottom. And it also helps to minimize resource wastage so that you know what or who you are supposed to report to. And feedback will also flow from bottom to top. So once you communicate downwards, you also need to get feedback from down going up. Another principle is the principle of unity of command, principle of unity of command. This implies that each subordinate should be accountable and receive command from one superior at one given time. So you need to have unity of command so that you don't have conflicting roles where employees are also getting confused on who they are supposed to report to. And this helps in ensuring that work is very effective and people are also accountable in what they do. Then we also have what is called centralization principle. And this normally implies in resources and authority to make decisions in a more concentrated way, where a few individuals have been given the autonomy to make decisions to the whole team or the whole organization. Centralization is a good thing when you want to minimize resources, but sometimes it might lead to a lot of delays, so that in the event one person is not there, it might end up leading to a lot of delays, which might affect the organization, both in the short run and in the long run. So you need to have a good structure in place that allows centralization principle to take effect. Then the last one is formalization. A tightly structured system in which all of the job responsibilities and accountability structures are very clearly understood. As the name suggests, formal. So everything is officially known and the systems are known so that people will be very accountable, and we will have what is called a clear communication structure based on the systems that you are using. We have organizations that have good systems in place. A good example is the banks. Banks are normally formalized in a way. Look at a bank like KCB. They are doing a great job when it comes to formalization. Look at Absa Bank. They were able to bounce back after they left. After Barclays left, Absa came in hand, and they're also doing a very good job, and many others. So last week, I already talked about the organization process. I want to talk about that again. So maybe if you have a question,